Welcome back, boils and ghouls, and today I have a video for you that's going to make your head spin. We are going to dive into the deepest, darkest corners of demonology, and we're going to review the demon known as Pazuzu. Now, I'm sure most of you already know the name Pazuzu, especially if you've watched The Exorcist, but what we're going to do today is reveal if he was even a real demon, and if he was he as evil as he was portrayed in the movies? So are you ready? Are you comfy? Alright, okay. Let's get spooky. Pazuzu is an Assyrian or a Babylonian demonic god, originating from Mesopotamian mythology. He is probably the most famous Mesopotamian demon in the present day, and likely the only one people have really ever heard of, just because of his appearance in the hit movie The Exorcist back in the 70s. Pazuzu was the son of Hanbi, also known as Hanba. He was the king of demons and resided in their version of the underworld. Pazuzu was also the brother to Humbaba, the demon god protector of the cedar forest. Pazuzu is often depicted as a fearsome demon with the head of a lion, the body of a man, and the talons of an eagle. The powers of the demon god Pazuzu is that he's in control of the west and southwest winds, which brought famine during the dry seasons. Pazuzu was also known to be that destructive force that caused the infestation of the locusts that ate the townspeople's crops. Now, many other religions write of these occurrences, and although Pazuzu brought a lot of pain to the people with his ability to control the west and southwest winds, he also brought the rains and the kind winds that helped the people's crops to grow. So in this culture, Pazuzu was not seen as completely evil, nor was he completely good. The people who worshipped him were aware of Pazuzu's powers, and so they knew he was also the best defense against them. Because of the threat Pazuzu presented to the people and their crops and food, he was one of the most worshipped demonic gods of their times. The people believed that the more they prayed and gave offerings to him, the better chances they had of good weather and no infestations. Mesopotamia is the region in southwestern Asia where the world's earliest civilization developed. The name comes from a Greek word meaning between rivers, and this is referring to the land that is between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. But the region can also be broadly defined to include the area that is now eastern Syria, southeastern Turkey, and pretty much most of Iraq. The Mesopotamian religion had its followers not just worshipping maybe one or two gods, but there were several main gods and thousands of minor gods. Each god had its own individual responsibility. As we get to more modern days, eventually Pazuzu made his way to the silver screen and is the demon who possesses the innocent young child Regan McNeil in the movie The Exorcist. But here, this is where we start to see Pazuzu now beginning to be associated with the Christian Satan and the forces of evil that affect more modern day religions. However, as his demon and the religion he originated from was not Christian, it predated Christianity by thousands of years. I'm not sure that these Christian Bible verses used for the exorcism would even be that effective unless they too were taken from Mesopotamian religion. Throughout The Exorcist, Pazuzu is only seen as evil. There's no rhyme nor reason as to why he possesses Regan exactly, but his real purpose is to just cause torment and pain and take the soul of this little girl. And The Exorcist wastes no time at all getting to Pazuzu. In fact, it's the opening scene of the movie where we get to see Father Merrin on an archaeological site somewhere in Iraq, and we get to see plenty of things being dug up. We get to see a statue of Pazuzu being unearthed, and Father Merrin finds himself a medallion with Pazuzu on it. He brings this medallion back to Georgetown in the United States. This token seems to be the catalyst that sparks the traumatic events to follow. And I believe the possession of Regan was a pure coincidence with this. She happened to have found and played with a Ouija board around the same time that Father Merrin returned home with the Pazuzu medallion. Initially, Pazuzu presented himself to Reagan as very friendly and did not show his true intentions at all. Pazuzu introduced himself as her friend, a friend she would call Captain Howdy. But little did she know, she had been communicating with Pazuzu himself, and she had allowed that bridge of friendship to let him in. I think if anyone else had been doing the same thing as Reagan, Pazuzu would have taken the soul and body of whoever was more innocent and open at the time. Pazuzu throughout the entire film shows his powers. He has the ability to see everyone's past and present, what haunts them, and he uses the guilt to manipulate the people that try to basically stop him from doing what he wants to do. We see this especially with Damien, and he uses the guilt Damien feels over the passing of his mother to tease and anger him. He is an absolute master of manipulation. He can also mimic people's voices perfectly, even those he has not heard of before, as we can see that he actually mimics Damien's mother who had passed absolutely perfectly. Pazuzu also has the ability to levitate objects and people, and he has this insanely godly strength where he was able to allow this little girl to just push these men off her, no problem at all. All in all, Pazuzu is definitely a supernatural force you do not want to meet. And as we know, I'm hoping this is not a spoiler for anyone. I mean, it's a 50-year-old movie. But in the end, Pazuzu is exorcised out of Reagan, and she goes on not remembering anything that had happened. We'll skip The Exorcist 2. I probably do not even need to explain why. We then get to The Exorcist 3, which is awesome, a great movie. Way better than the 59% Rotten Tomatoes gives it. I have no idea why it's only a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes. Here we get to see a more vengeful Pazuzu and what he's capable of doing when he wants his payback. But not only that, we also go back to one of the original characters, Father Karras, Damien. He's half dead and very possessed. And through this new possession of Damien, we get a good understanding of Pazuzu's side effects on a person's physical appearance. The physical changes Pazuzu presents to his victims are he can make them very pale, grayish, give them grayish kind of skin. They get bright yellow eyes, lesions and cuts, and of course, the vocal changes. And it seems these alterations were not specific to Reagan's possession, because Father Karras seemed to have the exact same features appear on him when he was possessed. So you would make the assumption that maybe this is how he looks in his human form, how Pazuzu would look in his human form. But throughout the movie, we do get quite a few glimpses of Pazuzu's human face, and it doesn't seem to look anything like how he makes his victims look when he possesses their body. Pazuzu's human manifestation, his face, is really the only part we get to see, but he adorns this very white skin. He has these dark red eyes, almost like old blood, where it's browny red. These eyes are circled with dark rings, and he has these brown, broken, rotten teeth. So I do find it odd how he makes himself look in his human form is not how the victims look at all. But regardless, throughout all of the movies that he appears in, Pazuzu is only ever portrayed to be this malevolent force, absolute embodiment of complete evil. He is rarely ever seen as a protector that the Mesopotamian people believed he also was. Out of all the deities that the Assyrian and Babylonian cultures believed in, Pazuzu was the most popular god that the people would call on for protection. They would hope to use the powers of one god to protect them from another. Most commonly, new mothers would call his name to protect their newborn or unborn babies. The Mesopotamian religion had another demonic entity that went by the name of Lamashtu. He was known to murder newly born or unborn babies to keep the population down and to make it easier for the gods to handle. Lamashtu would also cause disease and impotency and death, which he would bring in using the west winds, the winds that Pazuzu himself could control. Keeping Pazuzu in your good books meant he could cause these winds to continue over the towns and homes without causing any harm Lamashtu was set out to do. Parents would put their children to sleep with an amulet or statue of Pazuzu to watch over them during the nights. The people would also also place statues of him around their house to keep their home safe. It's why even today it can be very common for people to unearth tokens that adorn Pazuzu's appearance. And there we have it, you guys. All in all, Pazuzu seems like a pretty complex god. He's got a little bit of good, a little bit of evil. But what do you think? Do you feel that the people may have just worshipped him out of fear and he really was just a bad god? Or do you reckon he was a little bit of both? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. For now, stay spooky, my friends, and I'll see you in the darkness. Bye.